coming up who, very much like myself, he can't help it. He has to speak the truth. He gets it out there. He's been sacked, cancelled, shadow banned, more than most people. In fact, Josh Bernstein is his name, a TV talk show host, a news anchor, political commentator. He's been a guest on over 4,000 radio shows over the last decade or more. Some people refer to him as a political savant, and he's a terrific fella, and it's my immense privilege to have him on the program right now. Josh Bernstein, how are you going?
I'm doing fantastic. Great to be on the program with you.
It's fantastic not just to have you, but to have an American on there because of our time difference. I get to talk to a lot of people from the UK, but very rarely do I get some fantastic perspective on what's going on over in your country. And mate, over here, you've got a tremendous amount of Donald Trump fans. What's going on with him? And what happened on January 6th and what they've done to some of those. I want to talk some of those people who were there. And I can't even name them as anything other than patriots who were there for all the right reasons. Let's go with that first. There they were January 6th. I know one of the head guys of the Proud Boys just got sentenced to about a decade and a half or more in prison. A guy who, again, was unarmed. There was non-violent. It wasn't an insurrection. We've got the video of the guy with the horns on his head being escorted by
Jacob Chansley,
by police, through the building. Anybody, any thinking person who thinks that was anything other than, I wouldn't even call it a protest, if I'm honest. I wouldn't even call it a protest. I don't even think a fine would have been regarded as something that was adequate for people because it was a non-event. Politically, I don't think it was an event at all. And here they are, basically taking people's lives off them, jailing them for their foreseeable future. It is beyond madness. And now they're doubling down, blaming it all on Trump and wanting to lock him up as well. It's gone mad.
It certainly has. Look, I've said this many times before on numerous shows. November 3rd of 2020 was the insurrection. January 6th of 2021 was the cover-up in a Fedsurrection. Okay? There's clearly a difference here. We know from the tapes that FBI agents were within the crowd. We know that the Capitol Police were working with the Democrats. We know that the Democrats refused to have extra security, and it was a trap. It was basically an entrapment. Let's get all these patriots into one area because we know that if the vote went to the House of Representatives, where Judas Pence is what I call him, didn't use his constitutional authority that he had in order to send the vote, a contested election, to the House of Representatives in the United States. That's what happens in a contested election. It goes to the House of Representatives, where then the House of Representatives, each state gets one vote. There were more Republican legislatures than there were Democrat legislatures. And therefore, President Trump, if it would have went to the House of Representatives, would have come out victorious, and it would have ruined the steal that both parties in Washington put together. And so they needed a backup plan. And that backup plan was the Fedsurrection on January 6th. Now, what are they doing? Well, they're basically taking anyone that was there, that went into the Capitol. Look, if they really wanted to make a point, they could have given everybody $500 trespassing tickets and be on their merry way. But it wasn't about that. It was about scaring them. It was about intimidating them. It was about banning them, and it was about jailing them. Don't you dare ever redress your government, which you, by the way, have a right to do in the Constitution of the United States of America. Don't you dare challenge us. That's what this was all about. And now what are they doing? They're going after the head honcho. This is the biggest form of election interference in the history of the United States of America. And clearly, they are doing this because they understand that the people are with President Trump. They understand the scam that they have portrayed on the American people. They understand that the media was in on it to help with this charade. And this was the equivalent of the Reichstag fire with the Nazis, right? They used that fire to, jail their political enemies and a lot of times even, execute them. And let's hope to God it doesn't get to that point. But I agree with what Tucker Carlson said the other day. They tried to shame him. They tried to ban him. They tried to censor him. They tried to ridicule him. They tried to impeach him. They tried to indict him. And if all of that doesn't work, God knows what they're going to try next. So it is very, very scary here in the United States of America, because we literally have a hijacked Bolshevik revolution that took place in 2020.
All the evidence is there that's happened. You go back historically, going up to the previous election with Russiagate, Biden's son's laptop. Have the left-hand supporters, those who would vote for the Democrats or, for green style parties in your country, have they not yet woken up to the lies? Because the lies have been disproven thoroughly. They come back, they paint a very bad picture for the Clintons, a very bad for the DOJ, for the FBI, for Obama, certainly for Joe Biden. I mean, he doesn't need any help painting himself in a bad light. But it's just ridiculous that we haven't learned anything moving forward. But somebody put a post up in our online chat the other week, and it was a very good question, is knowing what we know, and you and I'm guessing, would have predicted what Trump would face had he not won the last election, which is debatable that he didn't. Anyway, that's a chat for another time. But did he underestimate what he was up against? Because look at what they're doing to him now. Could he have done to them what they are trying to do to him? And he would have had truth on his side.
Right. Well, look, after they did all of this, one of the first things that I said, and there's documented proof of it, in early December of 2020, is I said that the steal of 2020 never could have taken place if it wasn't for the help of the establishment Republicans. You see, the bottom line is, in America, if we had a true opposition party, in other words, we can handle the Democrats and their craziness and all of their policies, no problem. But the fact is that we now have the Republican Party, the majority of it, working in concert with the Democrats. So we call it the Uniparty of Washington. And the Uniparty is a problem because now we don't have a true opposition party. And so what I was saying to President Trump and his surrogates and people that I know is he ought to punish the Republican Party for abandoning him, for stabbing him in the back, for not sticking with him and sticking up for him as the standard bearer of the Republican Party. And instead, he should have started a third party, the Patriot Party. And he could have had 50 million people join within the first 30 days and another 30 to 40 million more in the next 90 days. Then we wouldn't be in a situation where we had the 2022 midterms also have a lot of issues in Arizona and elsewhere, in Georgia, of course, with the runoff race with Warnock and Herschel Walker. Of course, we had Hobbs and Kerry Lake. Clearly, Kerry Lake won in Arizona. You had Tudor Dixon in Michigan against Gretchen Whitmer. So, there was a lot of fraud that was going on all over the place. We wouldn't have had that issue if we would have started a third party, because the Democrats and the Republicans together would not have been able to compete with an America First Patriot type of party. He didn't do that. The other suggestion I had was for him to start social media. He did do that, but he really should have started a third party, because why would you want to go out and canvass and support Republicans and do rallies and support and everything else and endorsements when they're just going to turn around and stab you in the back? So I never understood that about President Trump, but hopefully he's going to be smarter this time in his third victory.
Yeah, I couldn't believe some of the outcomes. The most unbelievable outcome for me was a cardiothoracic surgeon, Dr. Mehmet Oz, losing to the likes of a John Fetterman. I mean, that did my head in. And it wasn't until something happened to me personally recently. I interviewed Tara Reid, who's got those historical allegations against Joe Biden, who's now also a presenter here at TNT. But before that, I interviewed her. And I had to watch the 60 Minutes Australia interview to get some background before I spoke to her. And one of her friends, who she historically confided in, subsequently came to validate the historical allegation, who did believe that 100% she was sexually molested by Joe Biden. When asked and I would have thought it was a no-brainer, and I thought, why would you even ask this question? And the question was, would you vote for Joe Biden at the next election knowing what you know? And you would assume, rape being one of the most horrific crimes we can imagine, that the answer would have been almost like, of course not. And the answer was a begrudging yes, I would. And then I realized they've been trained not who to vote for, but who to hate, who to not ever vote for. And they hated Trump so much that they would vote for somebody who they know, or who they believe, I should say, to have raped their friend over someone they've been trained to loathe. And that, I think, is the crime of the media, the mainstream media. Thank God for people such as yourself, especially Tucker Carlson, who has now proven that the mainstream media is no longer mainstream. Have a look at the amount of views he gets on X.com.
Right.
It's terrific. I think we're heading there. We're getting there. But how do we wake up those people who have yet to wake up? Do you think they'll ever wake up, or do you think that by the time they wake up, it will be too late?
Well, one of the reasons that President Trump won in 2016 is because you had the same type of dichotomy happening that happened, in 2020. You had a situation in which it was, who do I hate the most and who do I hate the least? Well, clearly in 2016, the person that America hated the most was Hillary Clinton. And the one they hated the least was actually Donald Trump. That's one of the reasons I think that he was able to win. But now you have a situation where he is the most hated person by, again, the political establishment, the rhino class of Republicans, of course, all the Democrats, all the media, everybody, right? But the American people are behind President Trump. We, the people, love President Trump. So he's going to have another uphill battle. There's no question about it. But we have to understand their tactics, and we have to combat their tactics. It's not just so much for us to go out and vote. Now what we have to do is we have to do some of the tactics that the Democrats have done. Unfortunately, we don't want to do those things, but we have to do those things, of course, within the legal realm. Now, what's interesting in America is that ballot harvesting is legal in 49 out of 50 states, or if you're Barack Obama, 57 states, but I digress. And so only Alabama is the only state you're not allowed to do it. So that means that all the other states have certain variations within the proximity of rules and laws in which you can actually do ballot harvesting. The left takes advantage of that in a huge, huge way. And clearly with mail-in votes and absentee votes and drop-off mailing votes and all these different things, and of course, crooked machines, they were able to do all the things they had to do in order to deny him his victory. So President Trump needs to do, number one, make sure that in the swing states in particular, you have people watching everything. Yeah. They are watching the counting centers. They are sleeping and taking turns throughout the entire night. So there's not suitcases being pulled out from underneath tables and things like that, or vans dropping off thousands upon thousands of ballots at 3:30 in the morning. We've got to watch everything. So it's not just the right to actually go out there and vote. Of course, we have to do that, but we have to become activists as well. And we've got to watch everything and protect the vote. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. I lost $15,000 on Trump when he lost. And I was sitting there. I remember it was afternoon here in Australia. The voting odds had gone from 6-1 against him winning to 6-1 on. And I said to my son at the time, I said, the only way I can lose this is if the remaining small percentage of votes are 99% for Biden. It's the only way that can happen numerically. That's got to happen. And somehow it happened. That documentary, 2000 Mules, a real eye-opener. I think everyone should go watch it. I could talk to you, Josh, forever. We've got a finite amount of time today. I'd love it if we can do this again in a couple of weeks, because I've got a million questions I'd love to ask you. I love your perspective. I love your spin on everything. And that point you made about a third party, I couldn't agree more. The globalist playbook has this duopoly. They're not even pretending to be different anymore. I think that cat is out of the bag. And the only other analog that I could find to what you said was over in the UK with Nigel Farage and the Brexit party. They could have gone to the general election, done exactly the same thing, woke people up, broken away from this duopoly, this controlled duopoly. And let's face it, in a democracy where you've got a media that is corrupt, where you've got people who are immensely programmable, I would suggest 80% of them, and a system by way they can cheat, the postal voting system's got to go. Mate, we've got to break it down, start from scratch. And you've hit every nail right on the head, Josh Bernstein. I appreciate you very much, and hopefully...
Well, remember this. America is not a democracy. America is a constitutional republic. In a democracy, it's mob rule. In a constitutional republic, you have individual rights. So the subliminal messaging of the political establishment class is to call it a democracy because they want you to get ready so that you don't have individual rights.
Certainly seems to fit the bill, doesn't it, Josh?
It certainly does.
Thank you very much, my friend. We'll talk again real soon. Everybody, Josh Bernstein, you can catch him online. The website is www.jbushow.com. I strongly recommend that you get on there and check him out. Josh Bernstein, absolute legend. We'll be chatting with him again here at TNT Radio.